Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yay, five on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the flow playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
The misery continues. Welcome back to another Five on the Floor live post-game edition. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. Tonight's floor plan with me, Coach Geo Valdez is here to recap what is another unfortunate 102-98 loss. The Miami Heat lose on their home floor to the Houston Rockets in a game that they had opportunities and they didn't capitalize. Ultimately, the Rockets rallied in the fourth quarter. It is a reoccurring theme. We're going to get to all the different segments. Before we do, want to shout out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. This is where you're going to get the most heat anywhere. So we are talking heat 24/7. There are a bunch of channels so you can talk March Madness. You can talk other sports, even music, stuff like that. But mainly, this is where you want to go for Miami Heat conversation. It's $2.99 a month. Use the link in the description of this episode, and you will be able to bypass the Apple upcharge for $2.99 a month. Off the Floor, the most heat anywhere. Had to plug that. Geo.
Yeah,
10
man.
straight, dog. 10 straight we are up to. This is rarefied air for any Miami Heat team. The longest losing streak of Eric Spoelstra's career. The longest losing streak in quite some time. Your initial thoughts in a game where, again, the Heat are outscored 24-18 in the fourth, 27-21 in the third. So ultimately, the second half, the bottom fell out. Your just initial thoughts before we get to the segments.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's nothing different that we haven't really seen all season. It's been the same thing. This team for 3 quarters hangs with anybody. Doesn't matter what team it is. For 3 quarters, they would be the top seed in the East. But unfortunately, this is a 4-quarter game. A few things that I noticed. There was I think a play. I don't know if it was early third quarter or end of second quarter where Tyler Hero got a rebound. I think Eason reached in and Tyler kind of tweaked something. And ever since that point on, he was not aggressive. He wanted no part of Amen Thompson. He wanted no part of anything really. He looked like he tweaked something.
Mm-hmm.
Bam also, like, Bam is bionic. That play where Amen ran into him when they were trying to run that DHO with Duncan. He fell on his leg, very similar to how like Kelly Oubre fell on Jimmy Butler last year. But the difference was Oubre was in the air, whereas Amen was on the ground. Bam got lucky there, and he got tweaked. They have to really consider, like, hey, man, I know we're trying to win games, or I know we're trying to preserve those draft picks, but we don't want our guys to get hurt, could ruin next season.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. The basketball gods are frowning upon us. There was 3 possessions in a row in the fourth where they got really good shots. Actually, 4 possessions. It was a Burks corner 3,
In
a
and
Bam
out.
midi, Khalil Ware jump hook, and there was another shot, and it just rattled in and out. So right now, it's not their season.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that they've accepted that. I think to your point too, like with Tyler looking a little, like maybe rattled, not, like because of it, some sort of injury, not rattled like in his game. Bam
Yeah.
also, I was scared. The fact that he stayed in, I was grateful because, you're worried about how that impacts the future, et cetera. So to your point, I think that there's some validity to thinking about being very cautious with both of them. The Heat tend to lean in that direction. So I think you're probably right. There were some bright spots throughout the game tonight. I think that in a season where we're going through a 10-game losing streak, there's not a ton to really cheer about. But we are going to use the segments to break down what went well, what didn't go well. And we're going to use the first one, the player of the game, to talk about a guy on Houston and a guy on Miami that both had really good games.
And now it's time for the A Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
Gio, who you got? I mean, Fred VanVleet, 37. He killed us. Wiggs had a good game. He had 30, and he was very efficient. So, I mean, those are kind of the two top guys on either side. What the hell went wrong with guarding VanVleet and also Amen Thompson? Like, he got to the cup. They couldn't stay in front of him. Your thoughts on kind of how they defended the best players for Houston tonight?
Yeah, I mean, so Fred VanVleet, I always know that he's going to go ahead and have an amazing game against Miami. This guy, he's going to shoot 38% from the field all season. But when he sees that heat across the chest, this guy becomes 2019 Finals Fred VanVleet. And he was hunting either Duncan Robinson or Khalil in the drop. And when he was feeling it, he saw about 3 or 4 go down. It was a wrap. You know what I mean? So Davion did his best, but when he's getting screened 2, 3, 4 times in one possession, like there's not much you can do there. So he was just on a heater. But honestly, that's not what killed Miami. It was the offensive rebounding. You knew that coming in. This is the best rebounding team in the league by far. If you look at all the metrics, there was no shot. Miami just had to keep it close, and they didn't do a good job of that. For Miami, I think we got to go with Wiggs, man. Wiggs was on one. I think he should have had more opportunities and they should have fed him more. But as a common theme in the fourth, they just went away from that. And he came in with like 7 minutes left, and it was already too late.
Yeah. And I mean, he got to the free throw line 9 times. I thought that Bam had moments. Khalil Ware, 16 and 14. That was a big game from him. So there were things that were coming together positively. Tyler had an awful night. Jaime Jaquez continues to struggle. I thought it was good that they figured out that Davion Mitchell should play starter level minutes. But to your point, Fred VanVleet, when he sees the heat, always tends to turn it up. He did again tonight. Let's actually use the next segment to get to some of the plays late. I think that's kind of the key elements of what they went away from. So let's get to our next segment. You'll hear Ethan's voice, y'all, our mobile C-arm and staffing X-ray play of the day.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
So, Gio, I don't know if this is too late in the game, so you tell me, but there was a stretch where Wiggins got a 22-foot three-pointer from the left corner, 3:29 to go in the game. He missed it. They then got Ware in the post, who missed a 7-foot hook shot. To me, like, I don't understand, to your point, why they're going away from Bam. Tonight, Wiggins obviously earned his touches late, but didn't necessarily get them. What's going on with the Heat that they seem to go away from what's working every time in the fourth quarter, and then they slip? The game ultimately slips. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's like it happens repeatedly.
So earlier this season, I used to get frustrated because as a fan, right, you're watching it and you're like, why are they going away from what's working? But after looking more intently, I'm realizing this team is too unselfish, right? There's not that one guy, and even Tyler. I know there's moments where he hijacks the offense, and people pull their hair out, right? But overall, this team is too unselfish. You have guys. I think you can agree with me, Greg, by saying that Wiggins and Bam are probably the most talented guys on the team,
Yeah.
talent-wise, right?
Yeah.
And those are your two guys that are um, they're betas, right? In a sense where they want to get everybody else involved, or they want to move the ball a little bit to a fault when they should actually take the game by the horns, like kind of like Wiggins did in the second quarter. There was, from the process standpoint, there was a lot that I did like, right, in the fourth quarter. Burks had an open corner three. Wiggins had an open corner three. Tyler had a floater that he missed. Actually, two floaters that he missed. Bam had a midi that he missed. Like, there was a lot of good shots that they missed. There was a few possessions that were not good, like a Davion step back because they waited too long to get into the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was guys were kind of passive because Tyler really didn't want the ball, which is rare. But I think that goes back to him being hurt. I think he's gimpy. He probably won't talk about it, but I think that had something to do with it. I don't think that would have made a difference because mentally this team is so fried. Houston knew they were going to win that game. They knew they were going to win that game, and there was nothing Miami could do about it because of the things that I mentioned.
You're right. Like, there was a shift where Houston took a lead and then built that lead. And then the Heat just looked like they weren't coming back. They made some late charges with some 3-point shots and stuff like that. But to your point, the Heat, you could totally tell that it was in their head again that this was about to slip. And that is something that we can't measure. There's no metric that we can go find and export from a website to Excel and start slicing and dicing the data to figure out what's going on with different guys. This is something you cannot measure other than just seeing guys, the looks on their faces, the way that they react in plays. This is in their head. You articulated it well. They're fried and they need this season to end. I know everybody is aiming for the lottery picks. This team's going to play to win, but I don't know that they have it in them to get very many because of how deflated each one of these losses continue to be. We'll get to our last segment. We're making a quick show tonight because it is a Friday night. There are 10 straight losses. How much are we really going to talk about that, y'all? But let's get to the real estate shop defending the house.
And now it's time for our Defending the House segment, sponsored by our friends over at The Real Estate Shop. You can find them at realestateshopfl.com. That's with 2 P's and an E, realestateshopfl.com, or at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram. This is Javier Iglesias and Amanda Martin. They help buyers and sellers in real estate. They're nimble and protective of their clients. They service the entire Tri-County area. That's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties with a proven on-market strategy. The real estate shop sellers earn the most money in the shortest time frame because Amanda and Javier have a deep understanding of the local market. So check them out. Again, it's at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram, realestateshopfl.com, or give them a call at 954-268-9812. And now, who defended the house?
Let's go here with this. Amen Thompson had 7 steals, guarded Tyler on a ton of possessions. Tyler was quiet, 8 points, 3 of 11 shooting, only took 1 3-point field goal, had 6 turnovers. What do you make of that matchup? What do you make of Tyler's game tonight? What did the Rockets do to bother him? Or was it self-inflicted? As we close here, what are your final thoughts on Tyler Hero, who had a really rough night?
Yeah, so I'll touch upon Tyler, and I also want to touch upon something else. But as far as Tyler goes, we saw the last game. He completely abused Houston, right? I don't remember what his stats were, but he was in a flow. And Tyler's the kind of guy that he's one of those guys that he gets into a flow and then he starts chirping. But if he doesn't have a flow, he's going to be real quiet. And Amen remembered how he got cooked last game, and I knew he was going to come into it with a little bit of an added edge. We know that Amen and Asar are we're 2 of 2, right? There's nobody really in the league that is as athletic as these 2 guys. They're like the way that they shoot gaps. There was a pass where Wiggins tried to pass, I forgot to who at the top, and the gap that this man shot.
Yeah.
He dropped. He was going on. A man was going back the other way, and he just lost the ball out of bounds. But it is insane the level of athleticism. Tyler can't really get by him unless he gets a screen. So he was just overwhelmed. On top of the fact that he just physically something happened. They probably won't mention it, but he tweaked something, and I can tell he was very gimpy. He looked like he did in the 2022 playoff series against Boston, where he was a little bit passive because he felt like he couldn't contribute. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to briefly mention, man, is this team, although right now things look terrible, I really do feel like they're a leader away. What I mean by that is they need someone that's going to come in like a PJ Tucker did for them in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
that when things hit the fan, hey man, we got this. I noticed that whenever they have these breakdowns, Bam tries to kind of gather the troops and put everybody together, but there you can see when there's not communication, guys are
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like huffing and puffing. They're like looking at the scoreboard. You know, they're kind of like giving in mentally, and they need that back. They need a bunch of dogs on their team, not necessarily a. Although it'd be nice to have a superstar, they need dogs again.
No, I'm with you. I think that they're not as far away as a 10-game losing streak would indicate. I don't care what anybody says. People will say that I'm trying to defend the organization. I'm not. Like, they've made a lot of mistakes and they dug themselves in a hole. But I think that they have tools and they have levers to pull to get out of this in a relatively quick way. They can't make a ton of mistakes. And really, when we talk about mistakes, one might be playing Tyler and Bam and risking them having any further injury if either are bumped up or bruised. So we'll see how that plays out, because, also now you have to really start to think you're 12 games below 500. You have to really think about just kind of punting out of this season and kind of regrouping next year. We'll see where they go. It's not a good sign that Tyler could be taken out of his game the way that he was tonight, but at this point, I don't know what to make of very much other than this team has no answers. We have no answers, but we continue to provide content. Geo, thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of our listeners, our viewers. Shout out to our sponsors. We will have you covered for all the other Miami Heat action coming up, as well as the Jimmy Butler return game. That's next Tuesday. That should be interesting. Hopefully they're not still on this losing streak, but it ain't looking good. I think the Charlotte game is all that stands in the way now. So we'll see. Thank you for joining us. Peace out.